The first time I heard the warning, it came from a megaphone bolted to a military truck rolling through our neighborhood. Do not use your phone. Do not leave your home. Comply with all official instructions. It sounded ridiculous. But in Rockford, Illinois, you get used to ridiculous things, like the time they closed Main Street for a squirrel festival, or when the snowplows blocked us in for 3 days. But this wasn't some Midwest quirk. This was fear disguised as safety. At first, there was just the curfew. No explanation, no news, just an alert that popped up on my phone at 7 a.m., then again at 7:01, and then a third time, in all caps, do not leave your home after dark. We all ignored it. I was scrolling TikTok in bed, watching some guy fail to cook chicken nuggets in his air fryer, when the National Guard rolled past my apartment. They set up spotlights outside the CVS and barricades at the end of my street. Soldiers with rifles, flak jackets, and bored eyes started patrolling past our cars. If you've never seen a soldier eating a gas station breakfast burrito at sunrise, you haven't lived in America during martial law. I called my mom in Indiana. She was panicking, even though she's 2 states away. Don't go out, Evan. Don't trust anyone, not even your friends. She says stuff like that whenever there's a tornado warning. But this time, her voice was shaking. She kept asking if I'd seen anything weird, any strange trucks, people in hazmat suits, pets acting funny. I lied and said no because what was the point? She'd just worry more. Monday, everything stopped working. I woke up to the power flickering, my Wi-Fi stuttering, and finally my phone just dying. It wasn't out of battery. I'd charged it the night before. It just shut off and wouldn't turn back on. I tried my laptop, but it just blinked at me, a dead blue screen. I could hear Mrs. Castillo down the hall banging her phone against the wall, cursing in Spanish. That's when the silence hit. You never realize how much you depend on noise until it's gone. No YouTube, no Spotify, not even my neighbor's late-night reality TV bleeding through the walls. That afternoon, a drone buzzed outside my window, red lights scanning every apartment. I ducked out of instinct. I'd never been scared of tech before, but there was something about that drone, like it was looking for someone, or something. Then the soldiers started knocking on doors, not politely either, like they were ready to kick them in. I watched them drag out a guy in pajamas, waving his phone and screaming, "Help! They're lying! Please!" They slammed him down, zip-tied his wrists, and shoved him into a Humvee. Gone, just like that. No one moved. No one said a word. I felt like I was in some twisted version of The Purge, except no one had any idea what crime we'd committed. That night I covered my windows with garbage bags and duct tape. I didn't sleep. Every car that drove by made me jump. I kept expecting my phone to buzz to get a text from Kelsey down the hall, but nothing came. It was like we'd all disappeared. Kelsey showed up anyway, knocking the way we used to in college, 3 short, 1 long. She'd brought Pop-Tarts and a baseball bat. We sat on my kitchen floor, whispering about the soldiers and the guy who got dragged away. Kelsey said she'd seen another neighbor, Mrs. Torres, get taken just for live streaming on Instagram. They're scared of something, Kelsey said, and they don't want anyone to see it. I tried to laugh it off, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. By Thursday, we'd stopped pretending. Me, Kelsey, Jamal from 3B, Carla from upstairs, and finally, even Mrs. Castillo when she ran out of cigarettes and fear. We tore down the building's security cameras and started using walkie-talkies instead of phones. Jamal taught us how to block doors with a broomstick. Kelsey gave us self-defense lessons using old tennis rackets. No one wanted to sleep alone. We didn't know what the rules were supposed to protect us from. We just knew that following them wasn't making us any safer. So we made our own rules. Stay quiet. Trust your own. Don't draw attention. Never, ever turn your phone back on. And for the first time since this started, I felt something almost like hope. Or maybe it was just the adrenaline. Either way, I knew the official rules were over. Whatever was coming next, we'd face it together, phones off, heads down, and eyes wide open. We thought the soldiers were the worst of it. We thought if we kept quiet, kept hidden, and stayed together, we'd survive until things went back to normal. That's how every disaster movie works, right? You hide, you wait, then someone shows up to save you. That's what I told myself every night, until the things that came after midnight showed up. The first time it happened, I was awake. I'd gotten used to staying up, just in case. It was always around midnight, sometimes a little before, sometimes a little after. The building would go silent, and then something would start moving in the hallway. It wasn't footsteps. It was like the sound of cloth dragging over the floor, slow and heavy. Kelsey was asleep on the couch, mouth open, clutching that bat like a lifeline. Jamal was posted by the peephole, his knuckles white. We heard someone knocking on Mrs. Castillo's door, gentle at first, then more urgent. But it wasn't her. I could see her huddled in the corner of my living room, clutching her rosary. The knocking got louder, then stopped. Then the screaming started. It wasn't human. I wish I could say I was exaggerating, but it was like metal being scraped over bone, high, piercing, and desperate. We all froze. Someone or something was being dragged down the stairs. After that, silence. The next morning, Carla from upstairs was gone. No one saw her leave. No one saw her get taken. All we found was her door hanging open and her phone shattered on the welcome mat. We stopped leaving the apartment at night. We started taping knives to broomsticks and sleeping in shifts. Kelsey taught me how to swing a bat at knee height, not for people, but for things lower to the ground. I didn't ask why. I just listened. 2 nights later, we watched through the cracks in the blinds as a group of soldiers tried to chase something across the street. They fired, but nothing fell. It was fast, too fast to see. Afterward, one of the soldiers just stood there in the street, staring at the building. Then he started screaming. Another soldier tried to help him, but he kept screaming, and then he went silent and just collapsed. His squad dragged him away. We never saw any of them again. We knew the city wasn't safe, not from the military, not from the things that came at night. So we made a plan. Jamal said his cousin used to work in the sewers. He said the tunnels ran under half the city. If we could get to them, maybe we could get out. We waited for the next blackout. When it came, we moved fast. Down the stairs, through the laundry room, into the storage space behind the boilers. There was a hatch in the floor. It took all 4 of us to pry it open. The air was damp and cold, and it smelled like rot and old rain. We climbed down, one by one, into total darkness. Jamal went first, swinging his flashlight in wide arcs. Kelsey dropped in next, bat in one hand, my arm in the other. Mrs. Castillo came last, muttering prayers the whole way. The tunnels weren't empty. We heard them before we saw them. Echoes, shuffling, strange metallic clicks. I kept thinking about Carla and about the screaming from 2 nights before. The echoes made it hard to tell what was real and what was just fear. At one point, we saw movement up ahead, figures, blurry in the half-light. But when Jamal flashed his light, there was nothing but an old maintenance cart and some pipes rattling with water. Hours passed, or maybe it was minutes. Time got weird down there. We finally found a way up, a ladder, painted red, leading to a rusted metal grate. Kelsey went up first and pushed. It barely budged. She pushed harder. Suddenly light poured in, and we heard voices, lots of them. Human voices. We climbed up into a subway station, abandoned except for a few people huddled around a battery-powered lantern. That's when I saw her. My little sister. She was supposed to be dead. I remember the phone call, the funeral, the crying. But there she was, sitting cross-legged on the cold subway tile, eating a granola bar, like nothing had ever happened. She smiled at me. "Hey, big bro, took you long enough." Kelsey's hand found mine. I didn't know what to do, what to say. I walked over, shaking, and knelt down in front of my sister. She felt real. Her hand was warm. Her eyes were the same soft brown I remembered from every childhood memory. "Am I dreaming?" I whispered. She shook her head and laughed. "You always overthink everything." The others didn't question it. They just accepted her. But that night, as I lay awake in the dark, listening to the drip of water on concrete, I kept wondering, how could she be here? How could she remember everything except the day she died? And why did everyone else seem okay with that? Things got worse after that. The people in the tunnels talked about the outbreak, but it wasn't the sickness they feared. It was the voices, on the radio, in their heads, coming from the darkness. People changed after hearing them. Jamal started forgetting things, little things at first, then bigger ones. One day he looked at me and smiled too wide. "It's gonna be okay, Evan. We're all gonna be okay." But his eyes were empty. He didn't remember who I was. He just kept smiling. I realized then, the monsters didn't bite. They talked. They whispered and rewrote who you were until you forgot your own name. Phones weren't banned to keep us from each other. They were banned because whatever was out there could get inside your head, through the screen, through your voice, through a simple hello. That's when I smashed my old phone for good. Whatever this was, I wasn't letting it inside me. We were different now. Hardened. Angry. Whatever hope we had left wasn't about rescue. It was about making them pay. We learned the truth in whispers and bruises, piecing it together in the cold dark of the subway tunnels and broken apartments. The monsters weren't just outside. They were everywhere. Sometimes they wore uniforms. Sometimes they wore your best friend's face. It started with the revolt. The lantern group in the subway station, maybe a dozen survivors, planned it for weeks. They had a map of checkpoints, an old police scanner, and enough fire in their guts to light the whole city. Jamal and I tagged along, both of us half-broken, clutching makeshift weapons. We firebombed a checkpoint near the river. Flames jumped higher than the viaducts. We rescued 4 people from a cage they'd built in the back of a library. 2 were so traumatized they didn't speak. The other 2 joined us without hesitation. Carla's voice came over the radio. She was alive, somewhere. We never found her. But that voice kept us going. Kelsey was the one who pushed for the broadcast. "People have to know," she said. "They can't win if the world sees what's happening." We broke into the old TV station on 4th and Main. Jerry rigged the equipment with car batteries and wire. The city outside burned while Kelsey spoke into the camera. She told the world about the voices, the disappearances, the soldiers who weren't soldiers anymore. She held up the broken phones, the bruises, the names of the people we'd lost. Jamal kept lookout, face pale in the glow of the monitors. The signal went out. We didn't know how far it reached. Maybe only a few neighborhoods, maybe all the way to Indiana. It didn't matter. They came before we finished, masked, silent, moving like shadows. Kelsey shoved me out the back, blood blooming under her jacket. She smiled one last time and locked the door behind me. She was gone before I made it to the roof. Gunfire echoed through the streets, screams, then silence. By morning, half the city was burning. We watched from a rooftop. Me, Jamal, Mrs. Castillo, my sister, or whatever she was now, and the others who made it out. The survivors were changed. Some had scars on their faces, some just in their minds. We were all infected with something, but not the kind you can see on a microscope slide. The infection of memory, of loss, of what we'd done to survive. The city didn't need saving anymore. It needed someone to lead what was left, and somehow that ended up being me. I wish I could say I made the right choices. I wish I could say we rebuilt, or healed, or found justice. But the truth is, there's only one rule left that matters. Never trust the voice on the other end of the line. Never trust the rules that don't make sense. And never ever turn your phone back on. If you made it this far, you're one of us now. This world isn't what it used to be, and these stories might just save someone. If you want more true horror, subscribe to Dark Whispers for the stories they don't want you to hear. Hit that bell and stay safe out there. We're in this together.